we have a new grant now currently, and I'm excited to have people joining in who could see how the first session ended. So this is a second session of the P English Literatures Writers Conference. It's time 1 p.m. EXT, and I want to say thank you for everyone who has turned up. Thank you, Penelope Terbia. Thank you, Annie Mose. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Wisdom Asha. And other people who will be showing up also joining on alongside. So before we move on, I'd love to give a kind of a round brief. So everybody can want to introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself, where you live briefly. Yeah, before we continue. And again, if a speaker talks about his or her book and you have a question to ask, you can ask a question. Or if someone finished talking about their book, you might want to contribute to it as well. So it's a kind of a free, open discussion, and this way you can have a nice interaction. So you're all welcome. I love to start from Penelope Terbia to Stephen Hart to Hannah Mose to Asha Wisdom. I'm not sure if Jaren Chris is there. Jaren Chris, are you still there? It's Jaren Chris and other people will be joining alongside. So okay. So Penelope, I'll hand over to you. I want to introduce yourself briefly.
Oh, hi, everybody. About how long ago? I bet I met you 3 months ago. I found you 3 months ago.
Yeah.
I live in Utah in the United States, and I actually had a program before my books came out. So that I plan on making 2 books out. One has 51 chapters and one has 80 chapters. And they still haven't come out yet, but they're very close. So they're juvenile literary adventure stories. Yep.
That's great. Thank you so much. Now move to you, Stephen Hart. A brief introduction about yourself.
Yeah, first I just want to say thanks for the invite and thanks for doing this. It's great that there's like platforms like this for us to talk about our books and meet new people. And so just thank you for that off the bat there. But yeah, I live in the Hudson Valley in New York. Been writing for maybe 4 years now. I've got 4 books published currently in my main series, the Amboy series. It's a science fiction, epic fantasy, sort of like a mix of a lot of genres. I've got book 1 here with me. It's called Along the Perimeter. And then got a few other books as well here with me too, but we'll keep moving along. Yeah, I've just been self-publishing now for a few years. My books all are actually on sale right now. I'm mostly on Instagram, so you can Stephen Healt on Instagram. You can go there and find all my information and everything there. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it for me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stephen. It's very lovely. Yeah, it's very lovely to have you here today. Now, move to you, Annie Mose. I want to give us a brief introduction about yourself.
Hi, and excuse me, and also thank you for inviting me to join you. My name's Ann Moose, and I live in Mission Viejo, California, which is in Southern California. And I started writing fiction about 10 years ago. I've had my whole 40-some year career. I've been a writer. I started out as a small book publisher, and then I ultimately ended up having mostly my career in technical writing. But quite a few years ago, maybe 15 years ago or so, I just decided to try to do some more creative stuff. So I wrote some mostly memoir kind of essays and things like that. I never really considered writing fiction, but then I just had this idea for a story about maybe 2014. And I wrote my first novel, and I just absolutely fell in love with writing fiction. It was really a way for me to express myself in ways that I'd never really done before. And so now I've written 3 novels. My latest just came out in September. And I'm pretty hooked on writing fiction.
Yeah, sorry.
I should say that, like Stephen, I've self-published. Because I had background in writing and editing books when I was in my 20s, I kind of had and plus I've spent my whole life as an editor and writer. I kind of had all the tools to be able to do it myself. And like a lot of people, I started out wanting to try to find an agent and try to like go the route the traditional route. But at my age, I really don't have the patience for that. You know, it didn't take too many rejections for me to decide to do it myself. I don't have any illusions of being the best-selling author or anything like that. So I've just put the books out myself, and actually they've done shockingly well, given the fact that I'm a self-published author. Amazon really gives you a great opportunity to find an audience if you put out decent books. And one of my books in particular has done really well. So I'm very encouraged, and I always encourage people to, you know, if you can't find the agent after your 100th rejection letter and you feel like you've done something significant, you know, do it yourself or find people who can help you do it yourself, because it can work.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hannah. And while you were speaking, I was trying to look for your book on my shelf, but I only found one. I know I have another one. I don't know where it's been kept, but I know I found one here. I was just trying to show it to the camera. But that's very nice. It's nice to have you on the show and nice to giving us a brief introduction about yourself. So I'll move to you, Asha Wisdom.
Hello everybody. My name is Wisdom. Um, I started in Abuja in Nigeria. I'm new to being an author because I just got my first book published this year, and I would say it's an amazing experience. You know, I've been writing, but I haven't had the opportunity, or I haven't created the time to piece those thoughts together and make a book out of it. It was fun bringing a book out of it, and yeah, it's interesting to be here. Thank you very much, Peter. I followed your work for a long, long period of time. It's quite an opportunity to be here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm excited. Yeah, so we'll be moving now into the conference, and like we all know, we have some allocated time for us to talk about our books. Before I move into that, I'll be reading one another, reading the bio first before we move into. I'm not sure we have to give a particular sequence for speakers, but I'll be starting from Anna Moss and then move to Stephen Hart, then to Penelope Terbia, then to Asha Wisdom, and Samuel Alexandra if he join along the line. Then Kiro, the author, will be joining too along the line. Before I have Jaren Chris talk about his book and his translation company. So I'll be starting from Hannah Moss. Hannah Moss began writing fiction 10 years ago. She's mostly made a living as a technical writer, but she has a background as a small book publisher and editor. So self-publishing has come naturally to her. She published her first novel, A Cancer Summer, in 2017, and her second, House of Fragile Dreams, in 2021. Her latest novel, When You Read This, I'll Be Gone, came out in September. She's married with two-grown son and lives in Mission Viejo, California. So I'll be handing over to Anna Moss to pick it up from there and to give us some brief talk about our book. So thank you so much, Anna. Love it to have you again.
Thank you so much. So, all right, so I'll just start out. Very oppressive laws that were instituted in the southern United States after Reconstruction to essentially oppress and terrorize Black Americans. I was born in 1957, so I, like a lot of people in my generation, grew up with pretty impacted by the civil rights movement and watching it unfold on our black and white television sets. My own father was disowned by his Southern grandfather, essentially for, you know, believing in the civil rights movement and not, you know, having my grandfather's racist attitude. So in my family, we were all very conscious of racism and of the civil rights, you know, movement that was going on as I was growing up. So I actually had the idea for writing this book when I was discussing with my mom, like, what was it like visiting my grandparents who were horribly racist during that period. What was it like visiting them in Arkansas and bearing witness to the segregated laws and Jim Crow and all that? And so as she was telling me kind of horror stories of things that she witnessed and that really bothered her, I thought it would be interesting to write a story that would be through the eyes of somebody with my sensibilities. So I wrote a story about a 20-year-old college student from California who goes back with her father to see her grandmother after her grandfather dies. And I made it a love story. I should say that I'm married to an African American, so I have I feel like it's natural for me to write a love story about a white woman and a black man. So I use a love story. It's kind of like Romeo and Juliet in the Jim Crow South, you might say. A love story that was used to shine a spotlight really on what that world was like. I think maybe I'll read the back cover copy. It gives a really good description, short description of the plot. It's 1955, and Catherine has joined her father in Arkansas after her grandfather's death. She's a California college student, and it's her first visit to her grandparents' farm since the summer she was 9. When she is reunited with Jimmy, whom she played with as a child, the two are immediately drawn to one another. They understand the dangers of their interracial attraction, but could never have imagined the far-reaching consequences of their untimely love. So basically, I have her falling in love with the son of her grandmother's housekeeper, whom she played with as a child, and she hasn't seen since she was 9. Now they're both 20 years old. They fall in love, and then what ensues after that, after they're discovered together, is kind of, this kind of terrifying experience where they're looking for this young man. So anyway, so that was my first novel, and it came out in 2017, and it did kind of, pretty well for a while, but then because of our sort of unfortunate resurgence of sort of overt racism that's happened in this country over the last, since the rise of Donald Trump, you might say, there's been the kind of like this huge spike in interest in my book, and it's done really well lately. I think because of people's really increased interest in our history of racism, especially now that they're trying to ban books like this in places like Florida. So anyway, so that was my first book, and it was really a very strong expression of all the feelings that I've had about racial injustice my whole life. And then the second book that I wrote has a lot of similar themes, but it's contemporary. And it came out in 2021. And it's an interracial love story, but this time the love story, the racial aspect of the love story is not the issue, because nowadays it's not a big deal. Men and women fall in love all the time, but in different races, and it's not a problem. But the conflict comes from her brother, who's a white supremacist, and she and her brother inherit a house together. And the house is a little bit of like a metaphor for our country. He's on the far right, she's on the left, and there's this whole plot that revolves around the fact that he's into guns and white supremacist group. So it's a way for me to I was writing about contemporary issues around race and and politics, and the way that our country is fractured right now. And the back cover copy on this one is still recovering from a divorce and the death of her parents. Rachel is living in the large house she grew up in. Upon meeting an African-American veteran and his 5-year-old son, she begins to hope for a new life. But when her estranged brother shows up demanding to move into her back cottage, he threatens to ruin everything. He is disturbed, gun-obsessed, and, as Rachel discovers, involved with people who threaten much more than her dream of a happy home. Addressing themes of love, hate, social fracturing, and violent white supremacy, House of Fragile Dreams is not just a suspenseful love story. It's a poignant reflection of a country in troubled times. So anyway, so this is the cover of that one. And I don't think I'm being terribly articulate about this. I'm a little bit nervous. But anyway, obviously I use my stories to write about things that I care about. My latest book is kind of a departure. Both of my first books were sort of thriller-ish. They had a lot of suspense, and they were kind of page turners. And I decided for my third novel that I would just try to write just a straight up thriller. So in this one, I decided I wanted to write about somebody who does something that they shouldn't do, terrible, and then it kind of snowballs into something catastrophic. But at the same time, I wanted it to be about something, not just a scary story. So I wove that story around a story essentially about rape in a college environment where there's a lot of really heavy drinking. And I got interested in that partly because my son was in college and I was hearing just extreme stories of just the amount of insane, heavy drinking that was going on. And I know that rape is a really big problem in colleges where there are a lot of girls get very drunk and the boys take advantage. So anyway, so it's kind of a story that mixes, you know, a story about basically kidnapping with a story of the college girl who is raped. And I'll just really quickly read the back cover copy of this one. And it's called When You Read This All Begun. Spurred by her husband's infidelity, writer, college lecturer Valerie Hawthorne has a romantic encounter with a compelling stranger in a rustic riverside hotel. They agree it will be a one-time thing, but it becomes an extended nightmare when she discovers the meeting was not accidental. Her stranger has both an axe to grind and an extravagant plan to make her pay for a crime she never even knew she committed. As Valerie's story unfolds, so does another, one more chilling than she could ever have imagined. So this one just came out in September, and it's getting great reviews so far. It's kind of a page turner. Hold on a second. I set myself a timer for 8 minutes. I gotta turn this off. So anyway, those are my 3 books, and you know, I guess.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. It sounds very impressive, and I'm quite excited. I have copies of your book here with me. I was able to pull up the second one too.
Oh, I'm surprised you have that.
It's amazing, you know. I have 2 of it
Thank
currently here with me, which is quite amazing. And it's lovely you're talking about it. Yeah, so thank you so much for sharing. And like I said earlier on, if a particular speaker finished talking, if you have a question for you can ask your question and they can provide answers to that alongside. So I don't know if anyone asked question for Hane.
Actually, I was curious, and with your background in editing and that sort of thing, do you do a lot of your editing and then do you reach out to somebody else to get other eyes on it, or do you do most of that stuff yourself?
So I have never hired like a copy editor or anything like that. I do have a friend who he teaches novel writing and stuff like that. And for all of my books, I've paid him just basically like a few $100 just to read it and give me feedback on it. So I mean, I guess you could say he was a developmental editor, although I've done kind of like the mini version of that. I also have people that I send it to all the way along the line. Like as I'm writing, I have a few readers that I just, send it to pages every day or whatever and get feedback that way. But as far as the editing is concerned, I've really done all my own editing. Everybody says you should not do that. But I've basically done it, and I've had people saying that all my books are well written. So I think I've done a pretty good job, but I do what everybody says you can't possibly do. I've done everything myself, like the covers, everything. So a lot of people spend thousands of dollars. I know people have spent $6,000-7,000 preparing their book to be published, and it's hard to make that money back on a book. So I've done stuff myself. I think I've done a pretty good job.
There's even more. There are even more than that. Are you surprised, Jaren?
Wow.
I will say one thing, just to give advice to anybody who's doing things themselves. The main place where I've really done well for my books is called the KDP Select Library, which is on Amazon. There's a library that when people subscribe to it, they can read whatever's in that library. And if you put your book in that library, which if you to be eligible to do that, you have to give Amazon exclusive rights to the ebook. But they have 83% of the ebook market, so it's not like it's a big sacrifice. But you basically get paid every time somebody turns a page on a Kindle. You get paid, and I mean I'm not kidding. I've done so well in the Kindle library at Arkansas Summer. I get thousands of page turns. I mean, for the last, year and a half, it's just insanely done well. So you can do really well in the Kindle library. And
how much did you make?
Published authors don't use that.
No, I said, how much did you make? Just
last year, this is okay. First of all, I should say I have a day job and there's no way I'll ever make my living writing novels. It's very few people can do that. But I'll just tell you that last year I made almost $8,000 just on page turns. So, and that doesn't include
Smart.
print books, and it doesn't include just regular Kindle sales. That's literally just page turns. So, that's not bad.
That's not bad. But do you think having it on Kindle, does it allow people to buy the book then?
No, I mean, I also have, it's available in a paperback, and
Okay.
it's also available, you can just buy the Kindle. But if
Okay,
you are
okay.
a subscriber to that library, you
Okay.
just download it, and then every time you turn a page, the author gets paid. And the cool thing about it is on a daily basis, you can go, oh my God, I had, 5,000 page turns, or you might go, oh, I only had 800, but there was one month I had 89,000 page turns, I mean, it's surprising how, if something catches on, how well you can do just off of those page turns.
Oh.
And you need to make a Kindle ad. I mean, you can do like a very cheap daily, $2 a day or $5 a day maximum clicks, whatever, ad for Amazon, and it works.
That's amazing.
Thanks a lot. I will take. I think I will take that advice. Because
Yeah.
I was thinking the moment you put it on KDP Select, your Kindle has to be free. That's what I thought.
No.
Okay. I thought that's the ebook. I will try that on. I think you are right on the market. Amazon has the largest market share. So as far as you have your book over there, I think it works. It's beneficial. It's a win-win situation for you and the company. I think that's very true. Thanks a lot. Sorry, I'm Peter.
I have a friend who has a series. She gets over 1 million page turns a month. She has something like 14 books, but she makes a fortune on the KDP Select.
That's very interesting.
Penelope wanted to say something, right?
Me?
Pardon me?
I thought Penelope wanted to say something. Do you?
Okay.
Oh, I just said that was I hadn't heard about that.
Exactly.
So it was very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much, Hannah. You've given so many great information away that I'm quite excited to know too. And like everybody too is excited to know about that. So thank you so much for sharing such an amazing information. Thank you. The next speaker will be Stephen Healt, and I'll briefly be reading his bio before handing over to Stephen to talk about his book. Stephen Healt was born and raised in the Adirondack region of New York State. He graduated from SUNY Oswego with a degree in geology. He then went on to achieve a master's in geoscience from West Chester University. When he isn't reading and writing, he enjoys camping, hiking, playing the guitar, and spending time with family and friends. And I'll be handing over to Stephen to pick it up from there. You're welcome once again.
Yeah, thank you again. I'll just talk about my books pretty quickly. I showed the first one earlier. It's essentially, this cataclysmic event happens on Earth, and a small population is saved by this alien race that intervenes. And then you fast forward 200 years, and it's sort of about the relationships between the humans that were saved and these aliens that saved them, essentially. And are they, this benevolent sort of overlord, or is there something more sinister going on? It's really just about, like relationships between people and how people react when they're sort of pushed to their limits. The first book sort of revolves around this attack that happens at the edge of this sort of safe zone that's been made on the planet. So it's about, there's people traveling to understand what happened and that sort of thing, and the relationships that evolve over time. And then the whole series itself revolves around this imbalance of power between, these alien saviors and the humans that are sort of under them. There's sort of multi-genre. I describe it as like epic fantasy with a hint of like science fiction and dystopia. There's political intrigue. But yeah, it's sort of my main project right now. There's 3 actual main novels out. Currently, I've got a novella that I consider sort of like book 3.5. It's sort of like a middle between the third and fourth book. But yeah, the fourth book's coming out next year, and yeah, that's the gist of it. Yeah.
Sounds great. Sounds really interesting.
I love epic fantasy.
Yeah, it's there's sort of like the majority of the focus is there's a lot of like world building and whatnot, and there's a large cast of characters. So if you're fans of like sort of I don't know, like a Game of Thrones or Brandon Sanderson's work, things like that. Some people get overwhelmed with the number of names to remember, but that's just kind of the books I enjoy, and that's the kind of book I wanted to write. Sort of large casts of characters, and a lot. There's a lot going on, sort of multiple subplots and things like that. But it's just a lot of fun to write.
How many books have you written? Have you written several books with this particular world?
Yeah, yep, that's correct. I've got three, well, I guess 4 books out. 3 main entries, and then there's the novella that I released just this year. They're all on Amazon. I had them on KDP for a while, but I'm sort of making the shift to going wide. So I took the books off KDP, and I'm going to get them into like Barnes and Noble and Kobo and things like that. I wasn't really seeing a whole lot of benefit to the exclusivity. I was getting page reads, but I'm sort of I'm going to try something new this year, I think, and sort of shift to more of like a wide sort of sales, marketing, and things like that. I do think it is beneficial to be on KDP when you're just getting started out. It's just the barrier to entry for readers is so low. Like if they're already subscribed to it, they can just access all the books that are available. So I think it's super handy for authors, especially independent authors.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for sharing about that. I don't know if anyone has any question for Stephen.
So I'll just say you have to take your book off of KDP and put it onto the other markets.
Yeah, so if you take advantage of Amazon's Select program, you have to have exclusivity with them. So your ebook, you can sell the ebook separately, but if it's on, their Kindle Unlimited, then you have to be exclusive with them. The ebook can't be available anywhere else, or else you break contract, and then they'll just remove your books from Amazon altogether.
Oh, great.
Like I said, and I'll be interested to see how you do. I'd like to maybe follow you and ask you later on, like, how did it work out? Because I did look into, what the market share is on Kindle, and apparently they have like 83% of the market of ebooks. So if you don't join KDP Select, you're not necessarily going to get that much benefit from the other. But I'm not sure how it will work out in the end for you. You might find that the Apple books and this kind of thing is where you'll get more traction.
Yeah, I think there is sort of a shift away from Amazon as a whole. I'm seeing that a lot, not just with indie authors, but just sort of consumers in general. A lot of people have been sort of boycotting Amazon, so some authors are shifting towards other platforms to try and get their books out of there. And then I'm trying to get my ebooks out to reviewers, just to kind of generate more conversation about the books and things like that. And you're unable to send ebooks to reviewers if you're part of Kindle Unlimited, because they don't want anyone to have access outside of that platform. So if I were to give my ebooks away for free and somehow they found out, they would take all that stuff off there anyway. So
for a reviewer, you can just send them a PDF file.
That is true. I think if there is if the book's available in any other format, I think they don't prefer that. They don't like that. So
what's your main form of marketing? That marketing is the hardest thing about.
Yeah, my main form of marketing is not doing any right now. Focusing on just the writing, really. I post on Instagram a lot about my writing process, where I'm at. It's just a lot of sort of interacting with readers as much as I can on social media, which I honestly don't do enough, to be honest. I'm really just on Instagram and sort of trying to meet more reviewers and talk to them and see what books they're reading, and then I'll suggest, like, oh, I saw your review about this book and you said you liked these things about it, so maybe you might like my book. Can I send you a copy? And the cold calling like that, some reviewers, they will never respond, but you get some responses. But I just try and yeah, reach out as much as I can to people, and if they seem interested, I'll give them a copy, in exchange for an honest review type thing. But that's mostly what I'm doing right now. And then once I have a larger backlog of books out, I'll shift my focus to marketing, just so that way there's more to market, and readers can see that, like, yes, this is a complete series. It's not something that they might start and then it'll never be finished and things like that. So.
It's amazing, really. That's really amazing. I love the fact that you've mentioned all of this. It's pretty much amazing. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
So I'll be moving to our next guest author, and that's Penelope Terbia. She'll talk about a writing and upcoming novel. Yeah. So Penelope, I'll be handing over to you to pick it up from there.
Okay. Well, I'll start. I signed up with somebody to help me get my books out. And it took 7 months to find out they weren't going to do it. So I started in March, and in October, I asked for my money back, and I got the money back. And so that meant that in all that time where they were supposed to do all this, format everything, I had to start all over, and that was in October. So then I was on the fast track for learning who do I go through and how do I do my own formatting. So I went to Atticus, which I've liked very much, and I've designed my own cover. And so that's basically I took a long time to get there, but there are 2 novels, and like I said, one of them is 51 chapters and one's 80, and I'm coming out with both at the same time. Not the smartest thing to do, but that's and so I've been a teacher for all my life, and I worked primarily with kids and teens in danger to themselves or others. And what I found was that that you can't educate them without transforming them in a more positive way. And I found teaching them to think like writers was the key to basically not only allow them to imagine various, that when they act, what would happen from that action, just like any of your characters, or to get strength from realizing that they can write. So I wrote literally, when I started, I wasn't a singer-songwriter, but I ended up writing in the classroom hundreds of songs. And I wrote children's books and a 3-hour marionette and shadow puppet show that I performed all over the world. And so all of it came from the value of learning to think like a writer. So was the start of it. And then I moved to Utah, and I was no longer in the classroom. And I was reading how terrible the school education system is now, and that the kids are depressed and they're below level. So I thought, well, I'll write a novel that will teach people how to think like writers. So that's how I started. And I'm actually going to print the second in the series first. So I'll tell you I'll let you read okay. Jacques Derrard, the all-around man at the Chateau de Mont, a boys' school in France, made a mistake. He agreed to accompany 12-year-old Charles Stratton III on a trip to Egypt. How could he guess that his charge was on assignment to write an article for Ghost Story magazine, or that after boarding the train to Luxor, Charles would mysteriously disappear? So this is called The Ghost of Tomb 11, Tel Amarna, Egypt. What follows is a hair-raising tale of riding through the western desert on camelback, of mirages, and stepping bravely into the crocodile pond in the temple of Sobek. Tomb 11 tells the story of choosing the path of knowledge, the path of initiation, and traveling through the dark maze of the Tomb of 1,000 Names, discovering ancient stories of creation and destruction, family and friendships, and transforming and transformation, and the possible answer to the question, what happened to the great treasure of Pharaoh Akhenaten? Tomb 11 is the second in the series of edutainment novels by Penelope Terbia. A great tale with the additional goal of helping readers develop their ability to think like writers. So,
Wow.
so that's my intent. And I really, both books, the one he starts out as a young writer as 10, that's in the first book, The Ghost of the Jangling Keys. And then he's 12 now. So it really follows how does a writer thinking like a writer develop in kids. So in this book, poetry is a big part of why he compares trying to write a narrative to explain what's happening to him and poetry, condensed language. No, anyway. Oh, and I just want to tell you, when I was the director of a psychiatric hospital education department for 4 years, and I was shocked at how many these kids would come in, usually in handcuffs, to tell you the truth, and how many of them were writing poetry. Not in school, they were writing poetry. And sometimes it was very bad. It was not good poetry. So I just wanted to give you a little example. This boy wrote this poem about his parents and how angry he was at him. And I said, oh, this is a great poem. But what if I think it'd be really interesting if you wrote another one that was in your mother's voice. And so he did this. And in finding his mother's voice compared to his voice, he transformed. That's the power of poetry.
I just want to say that apart from these books that you've already written, which sound really interesting, you should write a memoir because it sounds like you've had a fascinating life. Seriously.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it's been very interesting. But I want to tell you that I worked in lockup for also 4 years, where the kids, boys, 7 to 17, 18, were locked up, and they were in danger to themselves or others. But I used art, music, writing in particular to transform behavior, and I never had problems in behavior. And believe me, I was one of a few that didn't have problems. So
is this in a psychiatric hospital or in a jail?
One was a psychiatric hospital, and the other it was a step before jail. They were foster kids that were put into a lockdown facility where they were never alone. And so, and that one, I have an MA in education. I have more credentials than I need. And
that's funny. More credentials than I need.
10 years of school. And, but what I found was that if you use art or writing, you have to know exactly what you want of that student, from that student or that classroom. And then you have to let them know what it is. You have to get their agreement. There's like, if somebody can't sit down, you can say, do you think you can stay in your seat for 5 minutes? Do you think it's possible? And they'd say, yeah. And I give them a timer. And I said, oh, 5 minutes is up. So the next day I'd say, how about 6 minutes? Just so they know what's expected of them and that they can do it. Anyway, that's just there. But the story, I have to go back to the story. The Ghost of the Jangling Keys and the Ghost of Tomb 11, Telormana, Egypt, is really has a lot of Egyptian history and facts in it, because ever since I was a little girl, I have loved Egypt. I don't even know why. I just loved Egypt. Like 6, 5, 6, 7. So I've spent my life studying the ancient history of Egypt. Yeah, that's the other thing.
So did you write those books as YA books, or are they adult books, or what's the
genre?
Well, I wrote them as for 10 to 14-year-olds. That's about what I wrote them for. Do you mind if I tell you this amazing thing? That first book that's never been, The Ghost of the Jangling Keys, has been optioned for a movie. I haven't even printed it out yet, but somebody sent it out and it's been optioned for movies. And that doesn't mean it's going to make a movie, but it's been optioned for a movie.
That's fantastic. Congratulations.
Absolutely. That's a great news.
I never even thought. In fact, maybe I'm going to suggest it to you if you guys belong to LinkedIn to join 30. I think it's called Studio 32, and it tells you how you can get your book out.
Ooh.
I didn't go through that, but it tells you how to get your book out into movies or into scripts, or how to turn it into a screenplay. But I didn't even imagine, because I was still on the teaching them how to write and writing an exciting story, but that was something I just signed the option. So anyway.
Wow. It sounds like it would be a great movie.
Yeah. That's so amazing, Penelope. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's so
some
wholesome.
Of the stories I've heard so far, they could make.
Yeah,
if you thought about making screenplays, but
absolutely.
But it's anyway to be fun for you both, of all the two that I've heard. It'd be fun to try to just turn it into a screenplay, wouldn't it?
Can I tell you a story about what happened with my first book? When my first book came out, Arkansas Summer, I got this phone call, and it was from this guy. Hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm a friend of blah, 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 my friend of mine who's in sort of tangentially in the movie business. And he says, I'm a film producer, and I read your book, and I love it so much, and I was wondering if you would meet me, and we could talk about turning it into a movie. And I was just like, oh my God, and he was a real guy. I mean, he's actually, produced films, and so I met with him and this other guy who was his friend, and we had this meeting, and he was this old guy, and he was talking about Gregory Peck and all this kind of stuff, telling stories of the old Hollywood days. And he was very enthusiastic, and he had me sign something, giving them, the option for the next year to try to get it turned into a movie. And they told me they were going to take to all these studios. He had one time been a vice president at MGM or something like that. So, he had a lot of connections. And actually nothing ultimately ever came from it. And I think it was because he was, an older guy. And I think he was just a little bit out of touch with what was going on these days. He wasn't, he wasn't successful. But just that experience of being called to, like, I'm this guy, he was a real guy.
Wow.
And having that meeting was like one of the most exciting things that ever happened to me. Like, it went nowhere, but it was thrilling as long as it lasted. So
I hope it goes someplace. He's reading the second book right now. So he's in Austria, but he's got makes movies, and and knows a lot of people. And I have a very strong international. I toured India, Thailand, and Myanmar, teaching teachers how to teach with minimum supplies, and where I know somebody's going to be talking about translations that's coming up. But that I remember I had to use translators all for my first time, and I was a little nervous talking about that. How do you do this? And then when I'd be teaching them at teaching, and I'd say something very excited, they go, and I said, no, you have to be excited. It was fun anyway. So I have an international heart. Yeah.
That's amazing, really. That's so much amazing. Thank you so much, Penelope, for sharing and talking about your book. And thank you so much for the contribution, the questions, and the answers as well. Really made for an interesting discussion. Yeah, so I'll be moving to our next guest author, and that's Wisdom Asha. I'll be reading his bio shortly before handing over to him to talk about his debut novel. Wisdom Asha transcends his role as a practicing civil structural engineer and entrepreneur in tech. He's a writer and a seasoned blogger on and YouTuber. He writes articles, reviews, and script books. His first published book, Citizen, This Niger Area, published in 2023, marks a pivotal milestone in his writing journey, triumphing over the challenge of procrastination. Wisdom Asha, passionate about intentionally guiding young mind users his experience and training to speak and guide youngsters into career paths and help navigate life with some measure of ease. And now I'll be handing over to Asha to pick it up from there. You're welcome once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Truly, it's an honor to be here. I've watched Penelope's interview before. It's exciting to be in the same space with you. It's really interesting. Just briefly talk about my book. Um, it's not the first book I've written, but it's the first that's making this to be published. I'm a self-author. I wasn't able to follow through with KDP. We're having some issues given where I reside. But I was able to put the book on Stella. It was quite an experience. The first few months, the sales that I had an image in my head how I thought people would be clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking, and the book was going to sell out. But it was an entirely different reality. So it was something very, very humbling. It was a humbling experience. But I really am excited about the book I wrote because I've been writing for a very long time. Writing has been a means for me to release it's like it's therapy for me. I write for myself first before I even write to put things other. And I'm from Nigeria, and there's a whole lot going on in Nigeria. So I thought like I've written some I've written some things before, so I wanted to piece the idea together, to give people an idea of what is really going on. We've had a lot of tragic events, but I wanted to be able to tell these stories in a way that people can connect and see how it happened. So one of the things I did in the book was I picked up different stories and I wrote them as characters in the first person, so you really get a sense of somebody in that event, seeing how the whole thing has unfolded. We have a whole lot. I try to blend in a bit of our culture too into our book. One of the topics in the one of the short stories there is titled Olopa. Olopa means police in Nigeria, and not sometimes we have a lot of issues with police brutality against some young folks in Nigeria. So I wanted to be able to narrate an experience that I was told. The book is fictional, but they are based off on real life experiences. So it is interesting for something to read. It's like me. I package my emotions into a book and put it out. So yeah, it's personal for me, and I hope people who read it also enjoy it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Asha. And I was a bit curious if you would love to maybe read a section, I'm not sure if you have a copy of it there with you. I might want to read maybe a bio or something like that. But while you think about doing that, I don't know if anyone has any question for Asha.
What was the name of your book?
The name of the book is Citizen, This Niger Area. You know, the Niger area is the first name that's given to Nigeria. So yeah, that's where you got it from.
It sounds very interesting.
Yeah. There, there's a part I could read because I have it open up. It's an ebook. It's an ebook available on Stella. So there's a part I want to read from let me read from one of the topics that I really did enjoy. And
Okay.
I'm just scrolling through it to make it really fast. Is one of a story of crisis in southern Kaduna. There's been a series of unfortunate incidents in those areas, you know, and it was one I wanted to be able to capture properly. And the title of that one is called The Fire King. You know, it's a very traumatic situation. But I want to read the last I want to read the last few paragraphs. Okay, this one said, okay, we ran away from the flames, the incessant bangs, from the hateful guns, away from the screaming. We ran, leaving behind everything we know, all we've ever known, into the night, barefooted until we couldn't anymore. We slept by a tree out in the middle of nowhere I had never seen before. I asked about mom and dad again, but this time she started to weep, and she said she had not a clue. Mom left to get drugs for grandma and daddy. She last saw when we brought, sorry, she last saw daddy when we brought up, sorry, when he brought me up to my room. By the time she was conscious of what was happening, the house was burning already. She tried to help grandma, but she didn't know how to. She tried coming to my door, but the fire was too hot to pass through. But somehow I was able to, and now I was crying too. Miriam looked at me and told me to stop crying. She wiped my face with her palm, and with a forced smile, she lied and said, Moses will be fine. Miriam isn't a good liar. A 15-year-old with nothing but a phone in her hand and a 7-year-old with no shoes. How are we ever going to be fine? What would we do if we faced one of those masked men on bikes waving their black flags? Do we run again? How far can we run again? Do we kneel and say a prayer and hope the glory that awaits Stephen awaits us all? How are we ever going to be fine? That's the last few paragraphs from The Fire King. It's a story of there's been a series of attacks on villages in southern Kaduna. And someone I know personally there narrated her experience to me, how she had to abandon her family and run with her junior brother. So I tried to put the story together, writing it from a place of being the junior brother and escaping with your senior sister. It's quite something.
Wow. That's it. It's sad, it's pulling, it's emotional, it's heart-wrenching as well, you know. And yeah, as a Nigerian, I can relate to most of the stories, and it's quite disheartening. It's a shame, really, all of those things. Yeah,
Yeah.
so thank you so much for sharing. It's quite amazing, and it's
Thank you
lovely
very
to
much.
hear
I
your
appreciate the time.
stories and everything.
Thank you very much. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
yeah. I don't know if anyone has any question for Asha before moving to the next speaker. Then I think I'll be moving to Jaren Chris. Jaren has an amazing translation company where he does translation in different languages, Spanish, French, German, and others, name it. Yeah, so I'll be handing over to Jaren. He's also an author. So, Jaren, I'll be handing over to you to pick it up from here.
Thanks a lot. I am Jaren or Janis. A fun fact about myself. I think the first session we did a little bit of fun fact to get to know everybody's fun fact. Fun fact about myself. French is actually my first language, and English is my second language. When I was learning English, I used to confuse chicken for kitchen. So instead of saying I want chicken for $2, like in the KFC shop, I would say I want a kitchen for $2 or $3. So I think that little bit on my English, and I've been able to write a book. The title is The Mango Lion. It's a book about achieving dreams by going slow in life, serving others, and being ready to die for your dreams, based on the real life story of a mango. Why a mango? For me, mango is my favorite fruit, my favorite dessert. I think mango is a sacred fruit as well. Fruit considered to be sacred in 3 countries. National fruit of 3 countries in Buddhism is considered to be a sacred mango. Sorry, a sacred fruit. That's about why the title of the book. It's a personal book on my side because I believe all of us have dreams we want to achieve. And looking at Anne and I think Penelope has, she said she has more credentials than she needs. So she has done, we are actually learning from her. She has to give us more advice on what to do. But what I've kind of realized that is a lot of us could not, a lot of people cannot achieve their dreams because of fear. In the book, the mango wants to become a beautiful mango tree. But based on his past experience, that has been most of the time human beings, when they come to the village or they go to the forest, they just pluck the mangoes, they wash them, eat them, and throw them in the garbage. But deeply inside his heart, he wants to become a beautiful mango tree. What is he going to do with that past experience, with that negativity in his life? And the other thing that comes his way is he doesn't want to be buried because he doesn't trust the process of being buried. He doesn't know what happens after. He knows that it's kind of a 50-50% chance of either you grow or you pass away. So that day when he too is plucked from the tree, he goes through processes in life where he kind of realizes that the only way for him to become a beautiful mango tree would it be to be buried or just to give up on his life or give up on his dream of becoming a beautiful mango tree. I'll just read one of the quotes. I had the book reviewed by the world's youngest publisher, Guinness Book of Record. This is what he said about the book. I never thought about mangoes this way. There's so much wisdom in this book, and I'm so amazed by the concept of change. It's an interesting book for young adults coming up, trying to achieve their dreams, and a good read, especially for December, to kind of open your mind, look at the metaphor of a human being becoming a mango and going through the process of life where he kind of realizes that a dream is worth living for only if it's worth dying for. I don't know what an idea would be about achieving your dreams or what could be a feedback, but that's one of the main ideas of the book. The dream is worth living for only if it's worth dying for. And the other idea is you have to go slow in life, because I believe when you go slow in life, you kind of pace yourself to look around you, the people you have to serve, the people that will help you achieve your purpose and actually achieve your purpose. Because we've kind of realized, especially with in the 21st century, with technology and a lot of stuff, there's a lot of us are running, like it's kind of a rat race. And by the time you reach 90, you realize that you've not done a lot with your life because it was just competition all over the place. If you take your time, you slow down, you rest today, more new ideas are going to come, and probably later on in life, you'll be happy of what you've achieved, and you would have kind of a meaningful life, a life you've lived, serving others and getting the benefit of it. That's about the book. Any questions? Why mangoes? Why chicken? An interesting way.
Can you show the cover of the book again?
All right, I will do that. I will attach
I can't see the title. I want to write down the title. Move it a little bit more so I can see the title.
Okay, can you see now?
I can only see the
No,
top
it's
of the mango line. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
The mango lion.
The
It sounds
mangoes are
fascinating.
falling.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. It's going to open your mind a little bit. I know you've had a lot of books read. You've read a lot of books. It's probably going to give you new ideas. So that's on the side of the book. On the side of the translation, we had the opportunity and the honor of partnering with English Literature and the Black Book Show and other shows to help authors have their books in different language with as little as $200, $300. We've had a couple of authors in the UK who have their books, who have their books now in Spanish, German, and Italian, even local African languages, and who have started selling the books out there. Because you kind of realize, especially with self-publishers or indie publishers, most of the time it's difficult to have the books translated or having the process of getting, I think, a book agent and them paying for the translation and so on. So we brought the price as low as possible to help the authors have their books in other language and have a wider audience and make more money as well. That's about me, the book, and the translation. I'm waiting for questions.
So when did that book come? When did the Mango Lion come out?
In May, I think in May, yeah. Came out.
That's like 5 months ago.
Yeah, 5 months ago.
Do you do Arabic?
Do I?
Can it be in Arabic?
Can it be in Arabic?
Arabic.
Yeah, it can.
It can.
Penelope, are you
I
asking?
wanna ask a
Are you
question.
asking if it
I'm
does
asking if-
Arabic translation?
Into Arabic.
Okay, is that
Yeah, we
a
do.
question? Okay.
Is it with regard to the book or with regard to the translation company? The translation.
I think she's asking if your translation company translates into Arabic.
Yeah, we do translation into Arabic
Oh, I didn't hear.
as well.
He
Arabic
said
is-
yes.
You know, and
Yeah, I said yes.
I'm using a real person, an Egyptian person in my second book, and
Okay.
I got permission to. His name is Dr. Ariane. Dr. Ariane, and I got permission to use his real name and to use his school of chematology, which is a school about. It brings all kinds of people together that are interested in not only Egypt's sacred buildings, but also sacred buildings around the world. So when I contacted him to ask it, I got permission, and the School of Chematology is letting me use those names. And then I'm going to go in January to Egypt. And they said that it was probably, even though it's a young people's novel, it's probably going to have a wider audience. So I'll be in Egypt. So I was just thinking, well, that would be great to have have one in
The
Arabic.
book, exactly. I think if I have your email address, we can start working on it.
You have to go left to right, I think. It has to be written left to right instead of right to left.
So,
It's an interesting language.
yeah.
So I think it will be fine.
Yeah, you just send me your email address and then we communicate on that.
Okay.
That's possible. Madam Penelope.
Yeah, and you can leave your email in the chat box, Penelope, for Jaren to reach out to you directly. I think it's by the roadside. They're trying to get back, and it's supposed to be the next speaker. So I'm afraid how that's gonna work. So as like I was saying, I said you should leave your email in the chat box. Let me see what is happening in the chat box. Yeah, just so Jaren, you can also leave your email in the chat box, Jaren. And if you have books links you want to add to the chat box, you can add that too. That'll be great.
Here's this. Okay. I think.
Divine supposed to be the next speaker, but it's currently having issue with connection, I think.
My connection was a bit bad. I'm so sorry. I keep going out and coming back in, going out and coming back in. I missed a lot of the sessions because of my network. Well, I'm settled in now. I'm going to be settled in a few minutes. So I actually thought I was going to be back home. That's why I said you could schedule me for the second session. But I was doing took so long, I couldn't be at home. But I'm home now. So
I don't know if I don't know if we should give you some time to rest. The
last thing I heard was I mistake chicken for kitchen. That one.
The French. Good. The French stuff.
Yeah. So okay, I'm set up. So
yeah, and before you come up, Divine, we're supposed to have a session, like we're supposed to have an open session titled Open Discussion, titled The Role of Writer Towards National Development. And we skipped that in the first session. Jaren, you were present in the first session. There are a lot of talk and questions and answers. We couldn't cover the open discussion on the role of writers before. We even spent more than the time allocated to us. I think we spent like 2 hours in the first section instead of 1 hour, 30 minutes. So we couldn't cover that. So I think we might have to do that after Divine is done with his presentation. Role of writer towards national development. At what point do you think, what role do you think we writers have to play in terms of the things happening in the country, in terms of national development, in terms of showcasing the issues in the community and society today? I think that's a good question, because last year we had the open discussion for last year was how do authors become bestseller. But I think for this particular one, it will be much more better getting to know what role we should play as writers towards national development. We should be one of the greatest points when it comes to deciding what to do, like helping the government make decisions and stuff like that. So we'll come back to that after Divine delivers his speech and talk about his book. He has a new book out, which is co-authored by 2 authors, and it's a pleasure. We'll be talking about it shortly. So, Divine, I'm not sure if you're ready to pick it up now.
I am. Again, apologies to everyone. I like to be against the stereotype, but every now and again, we make it seem like Black people don't keep the time. We do. But I'm so sorry about it. But like my good friend here says, you never know what will come up. So talking about my book, I would kind of like be a bit selfish, you permit me to be. I authored a book with a co-author, Joshua Chikuzubelu. He's not here, but he's a very great writer. He has also got a lot of other books. But I'm not going to be speaking about that book because the whole theme of what was going on, I guess, was about books that really like apply to self. I kind of like heard, I didn't get the name. The lady that came before, French guy, she spoke about poetry, and I think the same thing also applies. So I would just go in that line. Since there's a book I just finished, it's been taking me a while to publish it. I have not like gotten the butterflies out of my belly yet. So the book I was supposed to talk about is Fallout Armageddon, but I'm not going to be talking about that because it's just like a fictional novel that doesn't really have any in-depth value to society, I guess. So the next book I wrote is Godly Be Damned. Godly Be Damned is a collection of poetries and write-ups that I did. It is not available yet. It will be soon, but that is what the next project that I'm going to put up. So Godly Be Damned is a collection of a lot of poetries that I wrote over the years. I had a lot of questions growing up about everything that let's say the generally acceptable. I'm one that always have problems with the generally acceptable. I always want to know why things need to be done the way they are done. So someone could tell me, it is always good to put, let me just keep it simple, put a drink in your left hand because you're going to shake people with your right hand. And I would say, why can't I just shake with my left hand? I don't know if any one of us is like that, not agreeing with the norms. So I kind of like became confused over time, became depressed, it led to a lot of things anyway. So I met a friend, his name, I've always had good friends around me. Prince, he told me, why don't you just write all the stuff that comes to your head? You say a lot of dark stuff, just write it. So that like spurred me to write short stuff on my Instagram. I was always writing back then. It became like therapy for me. So once I get the thoughts in my head, I just write it. And funny enough, one of the writers here was in one of our writers group also, Asha, Wisdom. He is also like we were opportune to be part of in the same group in school, in the university, Wordcasters, where we actually get a chance to do spoken words and poetry. Anyway, let's go to it. Godly Be Damned. Godly Be Damned is a collection of poetry, like I said. It is not aired yet, but I have a piece that is on it that I really, really love. Like you already know, it is a collection of thoughts that are not generally acceptable, especially by from the Christendom, from the Muslim side and everything. So for now, it's 24 pieces. But I think I'm just going to go with Godly Be Damned, which is the name. That is the last piece on the stuff. So this is it. Shall time be bliss or war? A celestial being can't be a lonely soul. The creator of worlds, yet desolately wanders in his own creation, seated on a throne of tarnished gold, ensnared by the madness of perfection. He crafts existence only to witness its inevitable destruction. Endlessly, a cycle spins, truths hidden within the veil of deceit. Nothing is as it ought to be. Living all of history is pain, knowing the truth in all conspiracies. Sitting idle as malevolence triumph over good. Setting up the stage for a bloody purge. Becoming jury, judge, and executioner. Harmonizing parallel impossibilities. But alas, a flawed maker begets a flawed system. The heavens weep and constellation lament. So this is like just like it's 2 paragraphs actually from the last piece, Godly Be Damned. It was talking about how the idea of God is sad. He's just one in all. The way it is coined out, it was like me saying that it is sad to be God. I do not want to be God. And it was like me imagining abstractly how God must feel like to be one where you're one in all. It also made me think about why the Holy Book said things about praise, him wanting to be praised and all that. If you're one in all, it becomes a bit weird if you have to always tell yourself, I am good, I am good, I am the best, I am the best. It is good, but sometimes it becomes weird when others don't say it to you too. I don't know if I'm making a lot of sense. So that was what spurred me to actually write this piece. It's so much more than this, but I'll just those are the ones I'll just coin out. I've got others too, but I'll just keep it at this. I think that's it. I'm not settled, so this is what I could come up with for now. So
that's actually fun. That's actually fun. Your statement over there makes me laugh. Well, it's great. It's great you could do that. I'm not sure if anyone has any question for Divine. Do we have anyone with questions?
I might
You
have
start
missed it,
writing.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I started writing in, I'm gonna say 2012, but I started putting out my work sometime in 2016. So let's say 2016 was when I actually became confident enough to start, putting it out, posting on Instagram, writing out for people to see and actually like showing my work to people, to other persons. So let's say 2016. So I've not been writing for so long.
It's amazing, really. It's
So that's
amazing.
about 7 years.
I don't have much of a question, but it's good to meet you again, Divine. It's good to know you
Okay,
still right.
wisdom.
Yeah,
You want to hear a funny story? Wisdom actually kind of like had like a chance to like go through this particular book that I'm trying to. I have not like really like gone the final step to like post it. So he has helped me like go through it. So I think he knows
and it is
some of the.
it's an interesting work. It is an interesting work.
Yeah. Is there any other question, please?
Oh yeah, I might have missed it. You mentioned you hadn't published it yet. Do you know where you're gonna publish it or how it's gonna be available?
Okay, so basically, when I was trying to publish my first book, I was actually seeing a lot of ads online about KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. So that was what I used for my first book, and then after which I discovered Seller, because I kind of like wanted my people like in Africa to also get a chance to like get my work. Not everybody doesn't be like have to purchase in dollars. So I think the two platforms I'm going to be publishing this, to answer your question, is Seller and then Amazon KDP. I guess those are the two I know for now. I don't know if there are others that you would recommend.
Is that Seller or Seller or Stellar?
Sellar. Sellar. Seller.
There are quite a lot of books written by Americans going on Seller currently. Like I've had some people said, okay, Peter, my book's on Seller. You can get a copy. You can get an ebook there. And I'm like, oh, really? I thought, no, I never knew that kind of thing. So it's an amazing platform, really. Seller.co, right? I think. Though my book is not there yet.
Yes.
I think I need to try and put it up there.
Yeah, you
Amazing
need to put it up there. It makes it easy, and
Yeah.
their download is so fast.
So fast, yeah.
Once anybody like pays for it, they get your PDF
Absolutely.
quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't
Teaching.
heard of that one before today. I'll have to write that down.
Yeah, I think it's Seller.co, Selar. I'll write
Wisdom. I think what you should do is probably, since I don't know who is on the system that knows the site, can just help out posting it on the chat box.
Let me get a link. Let me get a link from me.
Yeah, so while we're doing the link stuff and posting in the group chat, we're almost rounding up. So the last conversation for tonight is an open discussion about achieving national development through literature, the role of writers. Yeah, it's an open discussion, and I would love to get everybody's opinion on this particular title about achieving national development through literature. What do you think is the role of writers? Sorry, I don't know if someone. Okay, you have to mute you have to mute yourself. I think the sound is coming from the Divine section, right?
Thank you. I'll do that now. Just give me
a... So what do you think is the role of writers towards achieving national development through literature? I'm putting this up to everyone if you have an idea.
I think I'll just say quickly, one of the nice things about writing and science fiction and fantasy is that you can take issues that you're seeing in the real world and sort of tackle them or talk about them in a different lens. So I think it sort of allows authors and readers to maybe understand something from a different point of view, or maybe something that they're not familiar with, or things like that. I think a lot of the old like Silver Age science fiction tackles a lot of problems that were going on in the world at the time, and even now today we're still experiencing things here in the U.S. I think there's been I think an increase of like dystopian novels and sort of like grimdark novels, but also on the flip side, you have the hope punk, which is a new genre I found out recently, but it's just these very uplifting stories where there's no like cataclysmic world-ending event. It's just, characters living lives and experiencing things. But I think that's sort of the nice thing about writing fiction is talking about these issues that we have in, sort of different light or a different lens, things like that.
I know that, well, I love fantasy, the fantasy novel, but I often read them and I think this is predictive. It's prophetic. That I always wonder if these authors have some kind of direct connection. I'm reading, and then it happens in the world. Of course, the George Orwell. You can use that one. So many books that never claim to be political. Really, you start feeling something in your heart that you're being taught something and you're being made aware of something. And so that's why I really value the fantasy novels. And of course, my whole life is to see, I think that we all have way much more power than most of us know about. We just don't know the power of our brain heart or our heart brain, whatever you want to talk about it.
Yeah.
That's absolutely a theme in my books, both of my books. And when somebody that doesn't that doesn't really realize what's inside them, somebody gives them a little picture of what they could be or how they could move, it changes them. And yes, you're talking about national, but we have, for me, the individual makes the national, or the international in particular, in the international. So that's, I feel writers are they're essential for transformation. And the thing about writing fiction is that you're not being, so many people are telling you how to believe, what to believe, how you should act, whose party you should go for. But when you're reading a fiction, instead of somebody telling you, you put yourself in that novel, you make your own decision, saying, I wouldn't do that, I would do that. And so that's why I think writers are so very important. The end.
Yeah, I love that. And I wanted to add to this. As we're speaking, I jot from what you said, but I added a bit of difference. So I wrote that in a community that is devoid of human rights, writers are the mouthpiece of the people. And I'm speaking as a Nigerian. Asha can relate to this, Divine can relate to this. In a community that is devoid of human rights, where human rights is no sympathy to the so-called rulers, writers are the mouthpiece of the people. Yeah, so I don't know if anyone has another suggestion to put to add to this about the roles of writers towards community development.
And it's been very, very patient. I can't remember. I can't remember exactly where I read this quote, but I saw one thing online, and it was along the lines that at a time where a nation is chaotic, right, the government look to the authors, look to the writers, because one thing you find that in society is that writers are given gifts that they're able to package societal issues and be able to express it in a way that anybody on the street can look at it, relate with it, and not necessarily because they want the whole country to be in a state of satire, but sort of refreshing and bringing hope that, okay, there's a way you feel heard when you read a story. Like I remember when I was reading Peter's book about one of the series in the dungeons, and one of the things that is really dark. But some of those things spoke to me. It's like reading your thoughts out. It gives some level of release, even if you're not the one that is writing it, but you reading it, it's like validating how you feel, and it gives a sense that you are not alone in your feelings. Writing it is very important because people are going to read things. People want to, for instance, now when you go online, we say the digital world is taking over and everything. It's like when you want to type a comment under someone's post, you would almost first instance scroll through and check if someone agrees with what you want to post. Writing is very,
Absolutely.
very writing is very, very good. Yeah, because once you can relate with it, it creates this bonding community. No matter how hurt someone feels, you can honestly get a release from it.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that you mentioned that because I always do that. Whenever I want to leave a constructing opinion, I'm like, I don't know why people are always agreeing with this person. Okay, I'm not sure if my comment is gonna be hard, but let's see if anybody agree with what I wanted to what I wanted to leave. So if I did not find some, I might want to say, okay, no need. So yeah, Annie, let's hear from you. What do you think about this?
I actually hesitate to say anything because it's so big. Like literature it's like the most powerful thing that humans do.
Yeah.
The idea that you can pick up a book and you can read about the experience. I can read about the experience of somebody living in Nigeria, maybe 100 years ago, or maybe now, or I mean, it's astonishing, really, if you think about words on a page, they transport you someplace. And it's the way that history is written. It's the way we understand being human. It's the way that we communicate the most profound thing about, life and humanity. And I don't even know how to really express how important it is, obviously, for humanity. And in terms of what you were saying about nation building and this kind of thing, I mean, in a country that maybe doesn't have the kind of freedoms that we enjoy in this country, people put their lives on the line very often to speak the truth, to write things down. It's, they say the pen is more powerful than the sword, and that's in many ways that's really true, because that's the way that we communicate our thoughts, and that's the way we communicate everything. And there's just literally nothing more powerful than literature and reading and books. So yeah, I'm, like I said, it's hard for me to really express just because it's so big, and I don't really feel prepared to like describe the importance of literature, but I think it's the most important thing. And I think it's really powerful. I mean, now that I've written books myself, I mean, my books are not going to change the world, but I've created a legacy for myself. I've put something out in the world that kind of represents who I am in my time and what I care about. And I painted a picture that I leave behind. When I'm gone, I will have left these books that really do represent, to a great extent, who I was and what I cared about.
Wow.
And that's the power of writing. I mean, we can create a legacy. And in the case of great writers, I mean, look at people like Shakespeare, look at people like, I mean, they're just great writers throughout history, have made a profound impact. And I also think, just because we're like an international group here, the extent to which we can learn about one another in faraway places is really powerful.
It's
like
amazing.
I know everything tends to center around the United States in this country. We all feel like the US is the center of the universe, and to the extent, other countries aren't as a wider understanding of the world. In the United States, we're very insulated. But through books, we have the ability to learn about other ways of life. And that's one of the things I like to read about the most. I like to read about places like Afghanistan and Africa and India and other countries where, we don't really learn about otherwise if we don't read books, because our United States doesn't teach us about these things. But it's a way to have a common humanity. I think it's just unfortunate that more people don't read, because I think these days, especially, everybody's so like obsessed with games and other kinds of entertainment, all this kind of stuff. They cut themselves off from the experience of the world that you can have through reading books. And that is what literature gives us, is it gives us this vast experience of life and humanity and history. And I just think it's unfortunate more people don't partake of it, but it's the most powerful thing, I think, that human beings do, is right.
What do you think about this movement to audiobooks?
I think it's good in the sense that a lot of people, like me, for example, I read a ton, but I also have really problems with my eyes because I write. So I spend all my whole time in front of a computer almost. And I do actually read a lot of physical books, but when I'm tired and at night, a lot of times, or if I'm walking around, getting to walk, I listen to books, and it's a way to experience books that, is a lot of people are turning to it, and it's maybe more, it broadens the audience, I think, of people that don't necessarily want to read a physical book. And sometimes books, I think, are even better in audio. Like I've read books before where I've read the book and also listened to the audio version. And I think that the audio version, like my favorite novel of all times is The Poisonwood Bible, which is about this American family that goes to the Belgian Congo. And the father is this crazy evangelical Christian minister, and he's got 4 daughters and a wife that go with him. And the audio version of that book is just the most brilliant thing ever. It took a book that was already great and just elevated it. So sometimes I think a book can be elevated by a really great reader. And I do think that it just broadens the audience for people who don't necessarily want to read a book, but they'll listen.
Do you have one? Have you made any audiobooks?
I have not. I've got one of my kids who's pressuring me to change my books to audio or to create audio versions. I haven't done it yet, but I probably will eventually. I hear from my son that his generation prefers audiobooks, so I think to expand.
Yeah, that's true, really.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be.
Okay, personally, I always see it kind of a lazy way of reading. But for me, reading is kind of an experience, right? You get an idea, you think about it, and then you write down what you like, how you understood the idea to be. So when you are just listening, like if it's kind of, you have graphs, you have other information, I don't see how. It's a fun way to get information, but I don't see it to be effective, like an effective way.
Well, funny enough, sorry to cut you off, Jaren. Funny enough, I made a video. Yeah, funny enough, I made a video about this, about my preference. Actually, it started with like a post on Facebook, on the, I'm part of the Goodreads Society on Facebook. We have over 90,000 members plus. And I happen to be one of the moderators together with Teresa James, the admin. So I put up a post about my preference of physical book over audiobook. Well, I know the audiobook is good, I think currently we're in a revolution of audiobooks. Most people love listening to audiobooks. I'm driving, I'm listening to audiobooks. I can enable me to do other things. I'm cooking, I'm listening to audiobooks. I'm doing this other thing, I'm listening to audiobooks. But then I was like, I prefer physical book over audiobook because, then I made a post as a literary analysis. I was like, which is the best resources in analyzing works of literature? Is it physical book or audiobook? And I was like, I would prefer physical book because it enables me to be able to feel the information coming directly from the author. I'm a kind of person that I love to get lost in an author's writing style, characterization, plot twist, storytelling techniques. Sometimes I take notes, I underline some lines. Oh, wow, I love that word. I love to get back to it later. So and when I'm reviewing my books, I love to be so detailed. And I said, I prefer physical book over audiobook. And I was like, okay, what's my preference of audiobook? Then I said, I think audiobook is a middleman because this is a stranger, standing between me and the author. I said the physical book is the author. I'm getting the information directly. Although because I have got a lot of people like tongue lashing me, insulting me on that idea, calling me all manners of name. Some people said I'm so arrogant. I have got a lot of feedbacks on it. So I was like, audiobook is a middleman between myself and the author because I'm not getting the words directly from the author. Well, if the author happens to be the narrator, his or herself, I would still consider that and said, okay, that's nice. But you're giving it to a middleman. It's as if you're changing all the story to me. Well, it's fine. Some people might understand it and this now brings our discussion on how good your audiobook narrator is. But then I was
That's
like, I
important.
prefer physical book over audiobook because sometimes I might get lost in the audiobook's narrator's point of view. I might not be able to carry along with his storytelling techniques. And I was like, I think the audiobook narrator is a middleman. I want to get the words directly from the author, directly from the source. Well, some people agree with me. I say, well, it's fine for literal analysis, but you sound like an ableist, you know. How do you to how do you handle people who do not have eyes, people who are disabled, who cannot, you know, read physical book, who cannot touch it? Are you now trying to tell me that audiobook is not of no value? I'm like, no, that's not what I'm referring to. But this is just my preference. I know quite a lot of people who have some disabled people who love listening to book, and that's the only way they can get engulfed. They can carry on along with literature by listening to it. So I was like, listening to audiobook is fine. And I'm not on ableist because I mentioned expert, but then this is just my preference. And we all know that all of these things serve different advantages, serve different audience and different people. And even currently, I think the world is revolving around audiobooks. Quite a lot of people really love and admire it. But then to me, I just prefer physical book. Yeah, sorry for the long talk.
I think I love your feedback on that. I think Penelope, being a teacher, would give us more of the best example, not the best example, the best advice on the effective way of learning, right? Me being an engineer, it's difficult for me to just run through or skim through a book. I have to take my time and try to understand. That's why I think like videos do not work for me, because I have to go from point A, kind of get to the process of not just listen how things are being done or watch somebody's video. I don't know, Penelope, what do you think about effective way of learning with audiobooks, like, and the comparison, which one do you think is always the best to learn? Because on my side, I believe if you are taking an audiobook, you should listen to it maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 times to get the same quality of understanding you would have obtained when you were taking a physical book, going through pages by page. Penelope, what do you think about it?
Well,
even and if
I have two thoughts on it. One is, I know that you people have written novels, and that's a completely different thing. I've written a number of children's books or poems or things like this.
Yeah.
So I think there's a place for oral writing and oral thinking, but once it's in the air, I mean, you're talking about going and making your book into an audio, which is a different step. But when you're teaching, and if it's just oral and it's going into the air, they have nothing to keep. You know, they can't just say, I produced this, I wrote this, I did this. And I feel that part of the movement towards expanding the brain and expanding the way to think is to realize what you can do and what you might do better. So I agree that having something in your hands, if you can, whether it's a notebook or a novel, is a way that we communicate. We learn, how to do and are learning. So, yeah, I agree with you.
And I think that reading something is more immersive. Like I definitely do both. But when I'm reading a book, and the word, it's just, I don't know, it's a better experience, I think.
Sorry. Okay.
But I think they both have their place.
Yeah. And it
I
enables
write my
you.
book in my head.
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
I write my book in my head, and then I write it down.
Yeah.
So I have an oral experience for writing. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, adding to what Hannah said, it enables you to be able to interpret the book from your own point of view. I don't even know what I'm talking about. You know, once you're reading a book, we all have different ways of reacting to books. Or, okay, I read a book, you reviewed it differently, I reviewed differently, you review it differently. And the way I interpret my own book might be different from the way you interpret yours. So I prefer to have a direct connection where I can interpret it myself, interpret the message, process the writing style, rather than listening to an audiobook person do it for me. Sorry. Anyway, let's go on.
I will say though, if nobody's ever listened to, there's a book called Angela's Ashes, which is a very, very, very famous book. It won the Pulitzer Prize, written by my mind brain went blank. It's only because I'm on camera. But in any case, it's about this man's how he grew up in Limerick, Ireland. And the audiobook version of that, which he narrates himself in his Irish brogue, is just so brilliant. Sometimes when it's the author reading it, it's elevated. And that one particular book is absolutely brilliant. Angela's Ashes. And I don't know why I can't think of the name of the writer, but anyway, that's a great one.
Yeah. Time. I'm not sure because we might have to have one or two things for those who it's Eastern Standard Time. Might have one of two things to fall back to. For those in Nigeria and others in Ghana, you might have one of the other things to fall back to. But then we've extended our time more than 15 minutes. This is supposed to be the ending session for the conference tonight. But then I'm seeing Kiro, the author, just joining in. Kiro, are you still there or you're still driving?
Oh, really?
Yes, I see Kiro just joining in. So I don't know if you're still there. You might want to talk about your book for like maybe some few 6 minutes before we round up, please.
So I have 6 books. I have written novellas. My books are about things that's happening in communities that's not being talked about. So I try to share light on those topics. The first 5 that I have, they flow into each other. You can read one and be fine. But you read all 5, you have a better understanding of what's going on in the whole series. The 6th book is something that I invented. It's called Poetic Stories. So it's a series of poems collected together to basically tell a story. So like each poem is a chapter within the story. That's about the summary of what I'm writing. I can't really see y'all anymore, so I'm not sure what's going on with this phone. Oh, there you go. That's basically a summary of my writing and how I write. Some things are about my life, some things is about people that I have talked with, and I've incorporated everything into my body of work.
What's it called?
What are the names of your books and what's your name?
My name is Cairo. My website is cairotheauthor.com. That's KIROH, theauthor.com. My book titles, the first one is called In an Instant. The second one is called Cougar. The third one is called Coffee House. The fourth one is Journey Through the Rivers. The fifth one is called The Quarterback. And the sixth one is called Tombstone.
I'm impressed you've written so many books and you're so young. You look very young.
I'm actually 39.
Well, you look.
I know I'm still young.
It looks 21, right?
39 is actually young to me, but that's still a lot of books for 39. I'm impressed.
Yes, ma'am. I have more because I'm on my second series now, but I haven't published those yet. I had 2 that I finished, and I'm working on the third one in the new series that I'm working on now. So I just love to write, I guess.
So have you done these yourself, or do you have a publisher?
Everything is self-published. I'm looking into getting them published. That way I can market it better, and they will help me market it. But doing everything on my own right now is a job, but I'm getting it done.
Well, we're all pretty much I think all of us are
I think
self-published, right?
everybody here is self-published.
Oh, there you go.
everyone here
I'm
is
glad you welcome
self-published.
to the group.
Yeah.
Where are you publishing? What are you using?
But right now I publish on Amazon, but I sell them on my website myself. So when I publish them, I put them on my website.
I gotta say, Amazon may be responsible for a lot of really bad stuff, but as far as writers are concerned, they've done such a service to writers because, I mean, the fact that they allow anybody to publish a book is huge. I mean, it doesn't mean every book that's put up on Amazon is a great book,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of very credible writers who are publishing on Amazon, and it's a fantastic opportunity to get your book out into the world.
Yeah. That's true.
Yes,
really.
yes, I do enjoy it. When I discovered that, that's when I started doing it. But I'm looking into a publishing company now, because I think I'm at the point where I can do that now because I have my body of work and I have a little fan base. So that would be better for me at this point in my career, I guess you could say.
Good luck with that. That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Before we call it a day, I don't know if anyone has any other thing to say briefly, just before we dispatch and say, okay, thank you so much for coming on this session of the Writers' Conference for this year, actually, which is quite intriguing, is coming to an end shortly. So I don't know if you have an afterword or maybe a closing speech or something, a question, stuff like that, before we eventually leave. Yeah, Hannah.
Can I just ask you to say something about yourself, Peter? Because I don't know that much about you.
Exactly. That's very true.
When I host this kind of event, even when I host open mic, I always refrain from reciting my words because I want it to be about the authors who are coming on the show. I don't know why I always feel that way. But then I'm also an author. I've got 6 books published. All of them are poetry. And I think I just have 3 copies here with me. The previous one, I sold them all at the just concluded Ake Book Festival in Lagos. Yeah, so I only have 3 copies who made it home with me eventually. Yeah, so I have this. This is my second book, Fate in the Dungeon of Doom. More like I love philosophy and I love fatalism. I'm a thinker. I love to think of myself as a thinker. I love to think of myself as someone who like expounding on the difficult life issues of life. So this is a book that is written in 3 sessions. The first part is the poems of fate, while the second part is the poems of Kohame, and the third part is all the poems. So it's touched on the theme of fatalism, about fate and determinism, about philosophy, about the connection between human fate and the life itself. Then the second part is about the story of a Nigerian man gone missing and the aftermath of the family members over his disappearance. Then I have this, Whose Fault, Kismet or Impediment. This is my 3rd book, Whose Fault, Kismet or Impediment. This is, like I said, I love to think of myself as a thinker. So this is my 3rd book, and most people often consider it as a follow-up to Fate in the Dungeon of Doom because it stylishly still explores on the theme of fate, but this is more particularly centered on the connection that we human beings that our life have with obstacles. Everybody on Earth, like I always keep saying, everyone on Earth has experienced obstacles in one or many areas of their life in time past, or even maybe currently. And then the discretion of way to navigate through these obstacles might be very hard. Some might be a bit confused, not knowing how to go. So this is written. I too have experienced quite a good number of obstacles. Thank God I've been able to overcome them. Yeah, so this was written during those terrible, typical sad days. Yeah, it's written from the perception of a narrator who has experienced quite a lot of hard obstacles of life, asking questions about his own fate, if it's created for a purpose in life or stuff. The tone is quite dejected, like most people say. Your poems are very dark and emotional. How did you come about them? So it's a contemplation between a man, his fate, and the obstacles along his path. So it's written in 2 sessions too. The first part is the poems of obstacles. And this is where you have all of the poems are centered on the themes of obstacles. I love to keep consistent themes in my writing. The first part of Fate, almost have like 20 poems centered on the theme of fate. So if you're reading this one, you're reading about fate, reading another poem about fate, about fate, about fate, about fate. So it's like I'm keeping a consistent theme all through. So these two, the first part is about the poems of obstacles, which I have good numbers like 18 poems on the themes of obstacles consistently. Then the second section about other poems. Yeah, this is the last one that I have here, but this is a second volume to A Cry for Mercy. A Cry for Mercy seems to be my current popular work so far. I don't know why people like it, but like, yeah, I love A Cry for Mercy. Escape from the Unseen Dungeon. That's my fourth book, and it's kind of receiving a good number of reviews and recognition.
If you hold
on
that one real
Amazon.
still so I can write down the title. Escape.
Escape from the Unseen Dungeons. A Cry for Mercy is the first series. Escape from the Unseen Dungeon. Yeah, so that's just a bit about myself. And like you all know, I'm the host of P English Literature's YouTube channel where I review books and conduct interviews with authors around the world. Yeah, so thank you so much for wanting to know about that too. And thank you all for joining. It's really a pleasure to have everyone on the show talk about their writing and share literature. I'm really excited.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Nice to meet everybody.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah, of course. It's nice meeting everyone.
And again,
thank you very much. I'm
Peter.
going to look up a lot of, all these books.
Yeah, what I'm gonna do is you can send me your social media following afterward. I would love everyone to be able to follow one another on social media and connect with one another. That would be great too.
Yeah, thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. Au revoir.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for coming on the show. It's really a pleasure having everyone on the show. This session is actually currently live on Facebook, and the refined version will be aired later on, maybe in 3 days' time, on P English Literature's YouTube channel for further audience engagement. People are currently watching all of our discussions so far on Facebook. So the next people will be watching will be on the P English Literature's YouTube channel. So it's kind of a 2-dimension audience thing. So I'm excited about that too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we've come to the end of the program. Thank you all for coming in. It's a pleasure meeting everyone, and I'm excited once again.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye.